Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about a situation in the romantasy realm. Now, romantasy is romantic fantasy or dark fantasy, which is basically, as far as I can gather, porn, mommy porn.
Yeah, we've talked about it before, how fantasy authors are upset because the books that they're pushing are these books that are basically like 50 Shades of Grey meets fantasy. And at Walmart, these books are on the shelves.
Target.
Like,
almost all the fantasy books that you find now are basically this mommy porn, right? It's kind of trashy, but it's super popular. This is what this is the direction they seem to be taking D&D in and all that. And anyway, the situation has blown up, and they've got conventions for it. Obviously, one of the conventions, one of the big ones, as far as I can gather, Sinners and Stardust. There's some major controversy because apparently some people were groped at the convention, including a male cosplayer, groped by a bunch of women.
That's what I want to talk about. Is again, there's all these articles about consent, but we're talking about apparently some of the authors and that were harassed in ways too. But the one guy especially, he was there. I think he was there with a friend who was one of the authors, and the way it sounds is like he was dressed up as a character for this event. He was like, we're talking like full on assault. Like they're reaching in his pants and grabbing him, and touching him and stuff. Like we're talking like that, and it's refreshing that they're at least admitting that it happened to a dude, because they usually just try to be like, go you man, you're a guy, you don't care. But this guy had a panic attack. This guy, is completely violated and very, very upset. They even put air tags on him to try to track where he went.
Oh my God, that's
insane.
So let's talk about this before we get into it any further. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. I don't know if a woohoo is appropriate for this video.
No, I'm just like, keep your pants on, Gretchen. It's ridiculous.
Gretchen. So we got to give a hat tip to Fandom Pulse. They're the ones that put this out. I know they do cover the fantasy scene over there more so than we do. I don't really keep track of what's going on in publishing
I was familiar with the romantasy, and I was familiar with this stuff because our kids had told me about it. Was like BookTok, and that was what started it. And they were telling me about it. And you can go like to Walmart and pick up a book on the shelf and just flip through it, and you'll find full on. And I'm just like, any kid could go pick that up. So I'm just saying.
I
don't think I don't think Walmart necessarily knows that that's what they are.
But this is like all the fantasy books now. It used to be back in my day. Back in my day, we had like barbarians and knights, and
they're still there. They're just sexy.
They're just sexy barbarians and sexy knights.
They take what they want.
Oh my God.
Apparently fisting's involved, which my kids told me. But anyway.
Oh my God. Okay. Why do our kids know more about this stuff than we do?
Because we're not online like they are. Yes. So apparently it's a big deal. They actually had to put a statement out from the place, which we're going to talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
But we have a couple of places they're talking about it. This one person talks about it in Threads.
All right. So this Threads post here, fancy rants on these Sinners and Stardust. I mean, look, I'm going to be honest. When you go to a convention called Sinners and Stardust, you're given the genre too, I'm kind of like, you're going to have people that are going to be pretty worked up before you get there.
But this is ridiculous though, because there's
I'm not saying anybody asked for anything. I'm just saying you need to be extra careful at something like this. This kind of reminds me of like an adult film convention.
But it was the talent that was being harassed. That's the thing. It's like they want these people to come. They want the people that write this stuff to come to the event. All right. And they want them to come to the event. I know. I knew you were going to make that comment. They want them to be there, so guests, people, attendees will come. That's what they want. No pun intended. Stop before you start.
Okay.
Anyway, that's what they're doing. And the thing is, these people show up, and then as a result, they or the people associated with them are inappropriately touched, kissed, cornered about. I guess there's discussion like the poor guy. They kept asking, would you kidnap? How would you kidnap a woman or something? And he's like, I wouldn't. I think we're going to mention that here in a minute.
Oh my God.
These people are they can't separate the reality from the fiction, and it tends to attract a certain type of person. You know what I'm talking about. And those people don't always have a firm grip on reality to begin with.
I really miss the days of comic conventions and fantasy publishing conventions and tabletop game conventions where all you had to worry about were a bunch of fat neckbeards and black t-shirts, and they were mostly harmless. Maybe they smelled bad, but they were mostly
smelled
harmless.
bad. That was good because you weren't going to be groped.
Right. But it was
nice, and you're screwed. Apparently,
totally different time now. And look, I mean, before we get into this, I can say that this has been going on for a while with a certain demographic, because I do remember we talked about it in the video with Critical Role that we actually did a panel with Matt Mercer the one time. They had to take him out the back door.
They did,
because they were afraid he was going to get groped. And this was like
they did,
10 plus years ago, before Critical Role was really, really big. They had to take him out the back door because apparently he had gotten groped at conventions by women.
Yeah, and there was a reason. He kept having to be, escorted off and stuff, and brought in different doors than like the rest of us were, because we weren't in danger.
Door. He had his own
we were in
door.
danger.
He was a really nice guy. Though.
He was
I
really
keep saying
nice.
that. Like I know I dunk on Critical Role, but like Matt Mercer himself was a very nice guy.
Very nice.
Yeah, he was a cool guy.
Yeah, and he hugged me. Ha ha ha, crowd. Anyway, he was very, very sweet. And the women were just like, they were kind of crowding around, and they had to take him a different direction because they had to not go past the crowd. Us plebs, too bad for you.
Yeah.
But I had my husband, so no one was going to mess with me anyway. But yeah, so let's read this. This is like someone commenting on a situation. We'll read what the event has said moving forward with they have the Sinners and Stardust event in different cities. So they put an announcement out leading into other conventions if anybody shows up, because I don't know if the talent is going to come because they might be under threat from people who want to come.
Now, is this the same convention? I know there was another convention where they were attacking the person for writing a Harry Potter adjacent
I don't know if that's the same one or not.
It's this whole scene is really, I'm gonna be honest. My impression from the outside is this whole scene is really fucking messed up. Like it's just like batshit.
Well, they wish they were effing messed up.
Well,
anyway.
I mean, look, you're gonna get that though, right? You're
a lot of horny women.
I'm not saying
thirsty people.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like,
who can't separate reality from fiction.
You're playing with fire in other parts. Because the content that you're dealing with. I mean, I could have told, just as a pleb, as somebody who's not involved in this, I could have told you if you're dealing with lewd content like this, that there are going to be people at that show that are going to be touchy-feely.
You know what gets me though? They always are saying at conventions, like for cosplayers and stuff, that they're like putting out to don't harass cosplayers, don't touch cosplayers. Cosplaying is not consent, which I agree with, totally.
Yeah.
But the same people who normally would be like yelling about consent were the ones who were there groping a poor dude without consent.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's read these things.
All right.
Read the thread first. We'll read the response from the event, and then we'll read the person who actually was friends with the guy who got attacked. What happened?
Okay, so we can talk about Sinners and Stardust and say people have no home training and no boundaries, and consent was learned as children, but genuinely, I need you to be more outraged that multiple people were sexually assaulted. Multiple people were sexually assaulted. This is horrifying. It's not a shake your head and gasp moment. A man had a tracker placed on him after being groped by multiple people. Authors were kissed and groped by multiple people. I'm deeply outraged and upset. Stop calling BookTok to comment sections of someone you find hot. Stop telling real life people they're exactly how I imagined blank character. Stop asking authors about their sex lives. Parasocial relationships like these are detrimental to all safe spaces. Works of fiction may be your escape, but real life still exists. You are not entitled to another person's time, attention, or body ever. You should be deeply disturbed and ashamed by your actions.
I agree. 100% agree. And then I guess here's what you can click on this and go across. Here's what the actual vet put out. So they had this, they said, we are endlessly grateful for every single one of you who joined us for our Sinners and Stardust. Those who respected the heart of the community by asking for consent and honoring personal space. Our mission with Sinners and Stardust has always been to create something rare, a space where dark romance community can feel safe, unless you're one of the talent. Celebrated and free to share their love of the stories that move us most. When they say free, they don't mean free to grope. Move to the next one. Yeah. So We need to be absolutely clear. Safety, security, and consent are not just values. They are non-negotiable. No is a complete sentence. Did I miss a page? Sorry. Was that me? I skipped across. Oh, yeah, here we go. Our authors, narrators, vendors, influencers, artists, and special guests are not just names on a book cover or faces on your screen. They are people, human beings who deserve the same dignity, safety, and respect as every attendee. They give their time, talent, energy to the community. And in return, we expect every single person in attendance to treat them with the respect they deserve. I think there's another one yet.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Yeah. So moving forward, the following changes will be in place at all Sinners and Stardust events. Masks. Attendees are no longer allowed to wear full masks to any part of our event. No exceptions. Medical masks for health and safety are permitted. So apparently people will wear masks so they get away with doing things. Entertainment will continue, but roaming interactive entertainers will no longer be part of the ball. You can go ahead and...
Roaming interactive.
Yeah, apparently that's what this guy was. Maybe. Safety for our guests. Authors, narrators, vendors, their assistants, our influencers, and special guests will now have a secure, dedicated area during the ball. So this is like a ball they're doing, I guess, with their own security. They may move freely between areas, but attendees are not permitted in their area under any circumstances. If an attendee is caught trying to go into their secured space, they will be immediately removed and banned from future events. Smaller, safer events. We are decreasing the number of tickets available to ensure a more comfortable, safe, and respectful experience for everyone. These rules are not suggestions. They are expectations. Violations including harassment, non-consensual touching, photos taken without permission, invasive questions, or any behavior that makes others feel unsafe will result in immediate removal and a permanent ban from all future Sinners and Stardust hosted events.
So, I mean, I guess my thing is like, this is actually one of the most egregious, and we'll read the account here, but this is one of the most egregious things I've heard of at a convention. And this is coming from, people who used to do anime conventions. Of course, we had the whole situation, the allegations against Victor Mignogna.
Yeah, and back then, the voice actors, they would all behave like that. And you see the attendees, these girls would be unbuttoning their shirts on the way up to the table.
It was an anime. I was going to say it was an anime convention where they had to escort Matt Mercer out the back door.
Mm-hmm. But... I was going to say, these girls were not throwing themselves. There was no, they weren't touching inappropriately. They weren't, being touched inappropriately. It was like, look, but don't touch kind of situation. Flirt, but don't,
Right.
If anything happened outside of the event, in hotel rooms or whatever, that's another story.
Yeah, yeah.
But on the floor, this is how it was. But these poor people went to this ball or whatever it is, and the authors apparently got kissed. I know people got cornered with questions. This poor guy, we're going to read the account about him. Terrible. Yeah. Not acceptable.
Okay, so this is one of the friends of the guy that got groped.
Yeah, I think it was one of the authors, actually.
One of the authors?
It was the person that was with them.
Okay. All right. It appears I have to make a post that I'm frankly pretty GD upset. I have to make, not just upset. This post is for the readers who don't understand consent and boundaries only. A lot of you may know a good friend of mine, Blank, who's also Blank. He has attended a signing of mine in the past, and obviously as a music artist this past weekend, he attended Sinners and Stardust and probably had one of the most heartbreaking experiences. So listen, he's a man, right? But do we think that means it's okay to put your hands all over him without consent, or to put your hands in his waistband, down his pants, or touch his dick? Hello? Do we think it's okay to quite literally back him into a corner and touch all over him to the point that he literally cannot tell how many hands are on him and whose are whose? The way that that's written, I mean, I know this is not funny, but I'm like, this actually sounds like a scene from one of these damn books.
It kind of does.
You know, like he was backed into a corner and you couldn't tell whose hands were whose. I'm like, and I want to be very clear. I'm not saying anybody asked for anything. I don't want to victim blame here, right? All I can say is, given the subject matter, given that these books exist to get women horny, you're gonna have people take it too far. I mean, I think that's fair. That's fair to say, right?
If it was men and they were doing this to women, what would happen?
Yeah, but so let me put it to you this way: if I were a female author, and I wrote mostly porno.
I'm sorry, romantasy.
Okay, fine. Romantasy. And I'm sure they have this kind of stuff happen like at adult film conventions, like they really have to crack down on the security there. But I mean, your product gets people hot and bothered, right? And you're there, and you might be the object of their fixation.
Or you're dressed as the object.
Or you're dressed as, you know what I'm saying? So how can help me out here? How can I say this without sounding like a dick? I'm going to sound like a dick, but you're putting yourself in a situation where all these people are worked up and a lot of them may be unwell. A lot of them have a parasocial relationship. It's not exactly like you're talking about nuclear physics or something that's not horny. You're making horny stuff. People are going to be horny. They're going to be grabbing you.
But we're not talking about just a cosplayer who's going to an event and stuff like that. Not that that's okay. These are people I think that were brought in as you know, the talent for the event. They should have been protected. They should have been protected to begin with.
What I'm saying is the convention organizers.
Everybody should be.
For the convention organizers, knowing this is the perfect storm, there should have been things put in place before, because like you got to realize like all these people are hot and bothered. And you're going to get some people that are going to be obsessed, and you better have some pretty tight security. This, you know, I would have just assumed that security at an event like this needed to be tighter than it would be at like a regular old convention.
I would assume that too. And if the person was obviously being cornered and being harassed, then why didn't anybody stop it? If the authors were obviously being harassed, why didn't anybody stop it? I keep thinking of the Gaston thing that was at the Disney parks, and the woman walked up to him and she stuck her hands on his pecs, and he's like, "You're out. You're done."
Yes.
And she was like totally shocked, like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "I was kidding." And he's like, "No, I'm serious." Because if a guy walked up and put his hands on Cinderella's tits, he'd be out the door too.
So
you know?
that's the double standard though, because women, I have to, okay, so let me be that guy again. I'm going to be that guy again. If this were mostly female authors and female cosplayers, and it was mostly men that came to this event, you'd be damn sure that you would have all kinds of security there.
Right.
And everybody, okay. But because it's a bunch of women coming to an event with men, you know, they're men, whatever.
Yeah. Well, there's authors that are,
they like it
too, but you know
what I'm saying? Like there is a double standard, because women can't get gropey and grapey. It's always, you know, we always assume it's men, but that's like, I was even talking to my daughter the other day, and she was like, yeah, it's kind of weird that like all these female school teachers are like getting it on with their 13-year-old male students. I'm like, yeah, because for the last, I don't know, 20, 30 years, we were always taught that men were the only ones that were capable of assault.
Which is bullcrap. And that men, you know, and guys are dismissed. Like if this person had a panic attack, which I'll talk about in a minute. We talked about that one comic book author who basically admitted that she was groping that one guy, and then he, you know, was very upset by it. Men are expected to be like, you know, go you, wink, wink, ha, ha, ha. But it's as traumatic to a guy as it is to you. Just because you think it isn't, doesn't make that the case. Like, I'm thinking about, you know, someone was doing that to you, or you'd fight back. Or
dead.
Like to our son, I'd be kicking their ass. I mean, it's not okay. So, they said that, do we think it's okay to send him into an actual panic attack because of this? Furthermore, do we think it's okay to interrogate him and insist he details how he'd kidnap a woman, despite him repeatedly saying he wouldn't, and that, you know, this shit is fiction? Trash talk my books to him and try to get him to join in, and then attempt to follow him when he tries to get away. He had sweat-resistant black paint airbrushed onto his chest, and was told the only thing that will take it off is body oil. And then by the end of the night, it was almost all rubbed off and handprints smeared across his chest. And then this is the guy, too, that they put an air tag on him.
Yeah, God, I have so many thoughts about this. I do, and I'm going to get myself in trouble. I'm just like, you have a right to write whatever kind of fiction you want to write. Like, part of me is like, you didn't plan for this scenario. That's
you mean the showrunners?
The showrunners. You didn't plan for this scenario.
Presenters or whatever.
Like you're issuing an apology right now. That would have been my first thought, is all these people are going to be horny and obsessed, and they're going to want to be touchy. And
this audience tends to, not all, but a lot of the ones that are very obsessed with these stories usually aren't all there. You know, they're not footed in the real world. They're not like anchored here. They can't sometimes tell that's a person in a costume, but that's not that character.
Yeah. Like, did you ever see Misery? It's like a convention full of Annie Wilkes. Okay.
Except they want to break your legs. They want to, you know.
Yeah.
break your dick.
Yeah. So it's like, it's just like, that would have been my first thought is like, yeah, there are going to be a lot of horny ass mentally ill women at this convention.
Sure people thought that there would be, but they thought it would be, they didn't expect it to go as far as it did.
Because they're women.
Yeah, because I'm saying
if it were men, if it were mostly men,
they would know right from the door, you don't do anything or you're in trouble, you know?
That's my point. If this were a convention geared toward men, because you see how they lay down the law for men at comic conventions and tabletop conventions and whatever, and they beat it into your brain, thou shalt not look, thou shalt not even think dirty, impure thoughts as this woman walks by you with her tits hanging out. And
well, yeah, they tell you, you know, the women are allowed to wear what they want, but that doesn't mean that you know, that you can't, like, just because they're wearing like a bikini top doesn't mean that you're allowed to look at them, you're allowed to touch them, you're allowed to whatever. It's not consent, but they can wear what they want. Same with this guy. He can wear what he want, but you think it's okay to touch him. It's
because he's a guy and it's a female audience, they didn't think any impropriety would happen.
And we know, because some dudes who were like, yeah, baby.
Oh, I'm sure. But
he didn't know whose hands were whose. The stuff that takes like baby oil to wash off any oils in the skin was completely smeared off his body.
The fact that they're asking him to detail how he'd kidnap a woman, it's women. I'm telling you, it's mostly women. I'm sure there's some gay dudes there too.
I'm sure it is.
But I'm sure it's mostly horny women who don't have the same pre-crime judgment against them that men do. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
like
no, I agree with you.
Yeah, so that's where I'm kind of like, and again, I am not saying anybody asked for it. I'm definitely not saying anybody asked for it. What I'm saying is you should have expected people are people. It doesn't matter if they're male or female, straight or gay. People are horny and obsessed, and you're there. If
you're putting those guidelines in, if it were, you know, women and men were coming in, why would you not put that in place for this poor guy when all these women were coming in? And where was security? Why wasn't no one stopping it? And why? And the authors too apparently were cornered and stuff too. Why was no one stopping it? And at this point in time, for other events, are people going to back out? Are they going to come back to this? Because I'd be afraid to go to it. They're putting the security measures in place, but they put an air tag on him. What if someone puts an air tag on me and follows me back to my room? You know,
they could follow you back to your house. They could put it. They could put it on, you know, a piece of clothing or on your bag or something, and they could follow you to your house. Okay, and that's like, you don't hear about this sort of thing happening so for all this talk of like toxic masculinity, toxic males, toxic fandom, whatever. I've never heard
toxic fandom here.
I've never heard of this level of insanity and groping and whatever and misbehavior at a comic book convention or a tabletop convention or a video game convention.
No.
So yeah,
it was like a bunch of hungry wolves, and you threw the piece of meat in the middle and said, "Here, have at it."
That's what makes me upset. Because
I'm like, me upset too. It should never happen.
And I know it's women, because you get to the bottom, and apparently this is the author, right? She said, "I want you all to seriously sit with yourselves and your actions and ask yourself if you'd be okay with a strange man doing that to you." It would never get to that point because we just assume men are rapists. Is that fair? Can I fucking say that? You just assume all men are going to be rapey. So you preemptively,
they're going to be like, you know, do stuff like this and gropey.
Yeah, so you preemptively plan for that. But women couldn't possibly be predators. They can't. So we don't have to have the same safeguards, because women are all pure and tee-hee-hee, and they're blushing and they're like, oh, golly gee. It's like, no, we've seen it. We've seen it at conventions. In a lot of cases, in some cases, maybe not all cases, but you know, when the men are getting blamed, it's the women that were actually going after the men.
Yeah,
and then they have regret, and then they're like, oh no,
sometimes, but not always.
Not always.
I told you, this whole situation is just messed up.
It's disgusting. It shouldn't have happened.
Doesn't matter if you're male or female. Doesn't matter if the other person is male or female. You don't have a right to touch them in any way. No. You don't have a right to corner them. You don't have a right to ask them creepy questions. You don't have a right to do any of those things. Like, if you would turn it around and some guy did this to a woman, it would be considered horrible. Then you know, if it's done to a man, it's the same thing. They don't want it. They aren't asking for it unless they're telling you they have their dick out and they're like, hey, touch it, baby. They don't want you to do it either. They don't want you reaching in their pants and grabbing them.
I think and I mean, this isn't a good thing, but I think a conversation that needs to be had is now we've got, so this is like, I mean, talk about turning, this is like the T app. Talk about turning the tables. We've got this book club, Vocal Media, and they're like, you know, when fantasy meets reality, the dark romance ball in Boston, the importance of consent, exploring the controversy, the truth about dark romance, and why predators and not books are to blame for assault. Now, if this were a male-focused hobby, if it were video games, if it were anime, if it were comic books, it'd be like, yeah, look what this stuff is doing to our young men. It makes them all a bunch.
Fandom,
it's toxic fandom. We should ban this stuff because it's making them a bunch of horny assholes.
We should make women uglier in games so that men don't, get
the wrong idea. But I've never heard of a woman being pinned up against the wall and groped like this at a video game convention
by multiple men, and no one did anything.
And nobody did anything.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm going to be that guy because it's horrifying to think of, but I'm like, I know kind of sort of how it happened because you didn't think women, and this is what your audience is mostly women, you didn't think women were capable of doing that. I'm sorry. Can I say that? I'm a guy. I can fucking say it.
It probably started out as a couple women, and other women saw them doing it and thought, "Oh, we're allowed to touch,"
Yeah, it's like strippers. It's like ladies' night.
Then, there's still rules. I don't know. I just think the whole thing's disgusting, and don't behave that way.
Yeah, and look, I would tell you if I were producing content like this, not that I would, I don't know if I would be comfortable going to a convention.
Well, they sure aren't now.
Where I knew a bunch of horny ass women were waiting.
Well, this is a ball, not a convention, but even
okay, well, whatever. There's balls involved.
Yeah, there were balls involved. So anyway, we're gonna wrap this up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. There we go, guys. This awful thing to happen. It really is. And I want to be clear. I'm actually angry about it. The more I hear about it, the more I'm like, well, wait a minute. If this were, spun the other way, and I've seen it spun the other way, this never would have really happened.
I know. I got mad about the same thing when I read this. I mean, as a mom and, as a teacher, worked with kids and stuff, just the whole thought of these poor boys and these poor guys being, just makes me very upset. And I'm glad they're calling it out and they aren't trying to just bury it. But you're not seeing as many stories on it as you would if it was a woman.
No, you're hardly seeing anything. If this happened to a woman at a male-focused convention, every fucking media outlet, every fucking NBC, ABC, CBS, PBS, NPR, all of them, everybody would be talking about how comic book nerds are a bunch of rapists that can't keep their hands to themselves, and the toxic masculinity and the toxic gamers, and somehow it's Gamergate's fault and Trump's fault. That's all you would hear about for weeks. This thing, they're trying to sweep it under the rug. Yeah, what about, it's not grab them by the pussy, it's grab them by something else. So are we gonna wrap this up? Yeah, let's wrap it up. The more I think about it, the angrier I'm getting about this. Yes, I know. It shows the double standard. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later. Bye.
Attention, stupid humans. All orcs are evil, just like Gary Gygax and Professor Tolkien warned you. Series 1 of these orc enamel pins are on Kickstarter again for a very limited time. Pick your clan, join the Horde, and cause some mayhem. Go to badorcs.com. That's badorcs.com.